Hello, I'm Enzo, and this is the third and final part of my Minecraft Compact Claustrophobia run. Last episode, I finished up the high impact compactor, and between these two parts, I've had it running, first with the hop graphite ingots to make diamond nuggets, and before I can make actual diamonds, power is still a major issue. To fix that, I reluctantly reactivated the fusion reactor that I've had many issues with previously, but it's mostly stable this time, and there's plenty of hydrogen to feed it, so it'll be really powerful for a long time. I also made a small setup to automate the separation of uranium, so this gives me a ton of uranium to work with, both for fuel and the DU plating for nuclear craft stuff. Another major building I made was this RTG. This gives you a guaranteed supply, even though it's only a tiny bit, of power. These are pretty expensive to make, but the Californium one is obviously the best. It just takes a ton of different nuclear reactions to get the Californium 250 you need to make it. But still, even though it's only 400 power, that actually powers 2 of the magnets, so that's kind of big. Now that the high impact compactor's done processing all of the hop ingots I gave it, it's finally time to start making actual diamonds. This is so exciting. Now, because I don't want to clog up the input, I always put in the exact amount of, say, 9 nuggets for 1 diamond. But here we have it, diamonds, at long last. And our power supply's actually doing pretty well. So that's cool. We finally have diamonds, which means we can now make diamond pickaxes. Now that I can make diamond pickaxes, I get the final tier of materials from the machine walls, and that is tiny coal, just like the dash pickaxes, diamond nuggets, but they're extremely rare, and bedrock chunks, which let me make bedrock eventually, which is very important. We also get platinum and iridium, just like dash pickaxes, but unfortunately no hopstitute graphite fibers. So I've just been working on making tons of these hop graphite ingots for a long time now, and a bunch of other random projects. But I also sorted all of the materials from the diamond pickaxes and automated the crafting of blocks of coal. This is important because we need these to make wither skeleton skulls, and quite a bit of them. This is just ridiculously expensive. But making wither skeleton skulls is very important. You probably know why. To fight the wither. Because having a nether start is going to be extremely important when we break out eventually. And it's especially important because of where I spawned in the overworld. But that'll be in a bit. I'm just stuck here doing the exact same thing I've always been this entire run. But I have to say, making the wither skeleton skull does look pretty cool. The other nice part about all of these blocks of coal is it makes getting the hop graphite dust way faster and easier. And besides the diamond pickaxes, I've been making even more dash pickaxes to help out with the production. It's still going to take a super long time though. A while later, I finally had enough coal to build the third wither skeleton skull, and that naturally means it's time to fight the wither. That's one of the best parts about this mod. I can just make my own dedicated room to fight the wither in, and I don't have to worry about him flying off, or me taking damage from the explosion he creates, which is pretty neat. Plus, I can always just retreat if I ever get low, but considering I have 6 notch apples remaining, that's not really a threat. I also had to turn down his sound because I forgot how loud the wither is. It's been so long since I fought him. It's been way too long since I fought him, actually. But it was a pretty easy fight. I just have to jump and time my clicks right to deal as much damage as possible, and eventually he'll come down where I can hit him even easier. Easy fight, especially thanks to the set of dash armor I made. Pretty much the most powerful armor I can make right now. The same goes for the cubic boron nitrate sword I made. But after all of that, I finally get my nether star. However, I'm not quite ready to use it yet, as I need a few more things first. And to start, I'm going to put these 27 bedrock chunks into the high impact compactor. That's what gives me bedrock blocks. 9 for 1. Pretty awesome. Thankfully, I saved 2 diamonds for this occasion, and boom, I finally have the bedrock pickaxe. So yeah, even though I clicked the freedom command, you actually can't use that in the machines. You have to wait until you get back to the overworld. But speaking of the overworld, now that we have the bedrock pickaxe, I think you know what time it is. It's time to finally break out. Oh no, wait, that's the wrong mod pack. Compact Claustrophobia? No, I'm still breaking out. So yeah, we're finally getting out of our bedrock prison, which is awesome. So the cool part is you spawn inside of a meteor that has a bedrock shell inside of it, and yeah, that's a slight issue. So if I got a land spawn, I could have just used a bucket of water to go down there, but I obviously didn't get a land spawn. I got an ocean spawn, which is interesting because there's not really anything I want down there. Just yet, at least. There is one useful material in the ocean, but that's endgame stuff. Originally, I wasn't planning to make this augment, but I have not had luck with getting what I need right now, so I kind of have to make it. To make the last thing I need feathers from chickens. The issue with that is, I killed the adult chicken, but it didn't drop any feathers. So I had a slightly unethical idea. You see what I'm doing here? Because it still counts them as chickens. Yeah, I'm gonna put the chicks in the grinder. Oh, this is horrible. But it gives me the feathers I needed, so it was a worthwhile sacrifice. This gives me the coin of flight, which gives me creative mode flight in survival. And actually, even if you're in creative mode, you need this to fly, just because of how the mod pack is. But with all of this, I can finally take a trip to the overworld and actually start exploring the world. Because, you know, I kind of spawned over an ocean. Since this is still 1.12.2, the new swimming update wasn't added, so yeah. I would swim super slow, and I don't feel like making a boat. But it just seems to be ocean forever. There is a bit of land, but it takes a while to reach. Anyways, I'm going to start exploring the world, as I've been cooped up in that hole forever, and I want to see some actual Minecraft for once. Besides the fun of exploring the overworld, being able to fly in survival mode, I'm looking for villages. Now, besides the blacksmiths having some cool stuff, I'm looking for a specific building that I didn't find in this village. Also, the libraries are a great source of books, which is awesome because these are super annoying to make inside of our compact machines. That's why I've also been killing tons of cows for their leather. Alright, third time's the charm. This is the actual building I'm looking for. This is from the Immersive Engineering mod. And if you guys remember from super early on in this run, when I built the arc furnace, the graphite electrodes only come at half durability. Well, you need a specific villager from this mod pack to get the blueprint to be able to make the 100% durability rods, which I very much want, because it makes no sense why the game doesn't just let you make those normally, and it really annoys me. So, it took me a while before I found the villager, but I did, eventually. Also, the fusion reactor exploded. Again. This is like the fourth time now. However, it was my fault this time because I did not add enough outputs. After a ton of crafting emerald blocks and trading with the villager, I finally am able to purchase the blueprint I need to make these awesome 100% durability graphite electrodes. And there, I have 6 now, which is literally 12 of the other ones for the same price. It's kind of insane. One of the many other things I can make with diamonds is an easier recipe for the giant compact machines, which is one step closer to the maximum compact machines, and making them slightly easier to craft. The whole reason I need a new room is because I want to start working on some of the challenges. This is my last goal in this run, and I'm naturally starting with the easiest one. That is 1 million millibuckets of water, also known as 100,000 buckets of water. So, the game wants you to use this object submission station, but it's glitched and doesn't work. You can actually do it from your inventory. I learned that right at the end when I submitted everything, but for now I won't be using this. I'll just be putting it in a bunch of tanks, or reservoirs are what I use to store everything, and I'll submit it at the very end of the run. Water is extremely simple to get. I just used this small grid of aqueous accumulators, and yeah, water was definitely the easiest one. I mean, that should be pretty obvious. Next up, I'm doing something I really should have done right when I got the maximum 13 by 13 room, but I didn't, and that is moving all of my machines out here, because this is going to be my new base. I mean, obviously. But I still really like the nice 7x7. It, like I said earlier, was very comfy. Another addition is a fluid grid, which is like a fluid refined storage system. So this has an insane capacity, and this is going to be great, because now I can store all sorts of fluids that I produce around the base. As you can see from that cable there, I'm finally setting up an actual refined storage network. So I can both import stuff into this inventory, and then export stuff into machines that need it. It's pretty awesome, and this is something you should definitely do as soon as possible, and not wait till the end of the game, like me. If it isn't obvious, I'm not the brightest person in the world. So I was trying to get the importer to work and import fluids into the system. Apparently though, there's a setting you have to toggle. It's the second box to the top, and that changes it from items to fluids. It took me a very long time to figure that out, and I'm not proud of how long it took, but I figured it out in the end, which is great, because now I can do so many cool new things with it. And here's a great example. I have 2 electrolyzers hooked up to this tank, and all of the liquids, and technically gases they produce, just get imported straight into the grid, so I can use them later on, which is awesome. Another nice thing about having access to the overworld is now I can capture some skeletons to try and get more bone meal. I need bone meal to make the binder, to make all of the refined storage parts, and I need a ton of bone meal. I just don't have any great way to get it right now. So skeletons are pretty much my best option. I also built quite a few more voltaic piles, because energy backup storage is extremely important, especially when I'm operating the high impact compactor. I really don't want to lose something important like my storage grid. A while ago, I made this basic setup to mine, and then smelt and craft iron into iron blocks for one of the other challenges. It's also nice because iron is always useful. This challenge asks for 1,000 blocks of iron. And I tried everything to put it into the machine, but like I said earlier, this is glitched, so it doesn't work. The next relatively easy challenge is going to be lava. That's the whole reason I crafted an entire radiation suit, because I have to deal with this extremely radioactive Californian block, and I'm gonna have to do it relatively fast. I was talking about these a bit in the first episode, but this gives us a multiplier of 3,000 times. 3,000. It gives you 3 buckets of lava a second. Or is it tick? I think it might be tick. That's just an insane amount of lava. Needless to say, this is probably the easiest challenge, even easier than water. This is a basic version of poop automation. For later on, I made a way bigger and way more powerful version, but this will work for now, even though it's still really slow. I thought I might as well start it now because it's gonna take a while either way. It's a pretty basic setup. I just need a fluid transposer, and then sewage, so water into a bucket with a hopper for the poop, and bioblend. It's pretty simple, and it's the exact same thing as just throwing the poop into water with the bioblend, but actually automated and no items on the ground. So yeah, I'll leave that running for a while. So I know I really should have just made all these pigs. I think you can craft pigs in the multi-block, but since I have access to the overworld, I captured a ton of pigs, as you can see here. And just like the chickens from earlier to get the feathers, I had a horrible idea. So basically, I need either fish, which fish is very inefficient for what I need, so I decided to go with the pigs. But I need pork chops to make gelatin for one of the next items. The issue with that is I'm going to need a ton of pork chops. So I was thinking, what if I just breed these pigs and then, do what I did to the chickens with the baby pigs. And it works, it's just their baby cooldown is so long, it wasn't really working. So in the end, I went back to the overworld and killed as many pigs as I can find to get tons of pork chops. Since lava is likely done by now, and the poop is, well, at least started, I wanted to get on with the s'mores. I honestly don't know how to pronounce the final product, but let's say s'mores. I'm starting out by making the marshmallows, which requires gelatin from the pork chops from the pigs that I just did, and I'm gonna keep them around for a while because I still need more. The combination of water and gelatin gives us hydrated gelatin. Makes sense. And then the hydrated gelatin and molten sugar, which is pretty self-explanatory, gives us liquid marshmallow. The liquid marshmallow just goes into an ingot former, which is pretty awesome, because it costs no power, you just need a ton of speed upgrades. And that's how we get marshmallows, which you don't need nearly as many of these as you really think. But, of course, that's only the first part of the abomination that is the s'mores. The 4 s'more quad sminget, I think. Close enough. The next process is extremely simple. I'm just going to need to grow a ton of wheat for it. But you put wheat into a manufactory to get flour. Then you put 2 flour into a pressurizer to get graham crackers. Simple. And if you didn't know, I've been eating all of these different foods because if you eat enough different types of food, you gain extra hearts. That's how I have those orange hearts on the left side of my health. That's another good reason for making all of these different s'mores, but you know, they're mostly for the challenge. And the third ingredient is cocoa beans, so even more stuff I have to grow. But to start out, I have to throw them into a furnace. Alright, that's not horrible. There's still like a trillion processes to go though. Chocolate is by far the most complicated out of these 3 ingredients. After the cocoa beans are done roasting, I have to throw them into the manufactory to get cocoa nibs. This is the second part, and there's still way more to go. After making this fluid extractor and an insane amount of upgrades for these buildings, you get the actually useful cocoa butter and then a completely useless brown dye byproduct. Well, useless for me at least. The other part is melting down the cocoa nibs normally, and then I have to add that with cocoa butter. So you're going to need an insane amount of cocoa beans to make cocoa nibs, and then butter, and then liquor, respectively. But we combine the chocolate liquor and cocoa butter to get unsweetened chocolate. As the name suggests, I put this unsweetened chocolate with sugar to get dark chocolate. We're getting closer to our final goal now, but we still have a bunch to do. With that dark chocolate and an insane amount of milk I saved up, we get, well, obviously, milk chocolate. We're still not done. We have to throw that back into the ingot former to finally get our chocolate bars that we need. Before I finish up the s'mores, I decided to take a brief detour to make something else I want to make in this run. And this starts with me making a chorus flower. Conveniently, I can put this into the phytogenic insulator to make chorus fruit, so that's extremely easy and convenient, and I'm going to need these chorus fruit for the next step. I'm making something I completely forgot existed but probably would have been super useful. These are called capability proxies. They basically give you more ports to work with for either blocks, which, yeah, have tons of uses now that I think about it, or in this case, entities. That's why I need the chorus fruit though, because you need popped chorus fruit to make the entity proxy. You know, I just realized I'm kind of stupid. I didn't need the capability proxy. I could have just used the auto clicker normally, now that I think about it. I am not the brightest in the world. Let's just say that. But as you can see, I can automatically milk the cow now. The only issue is I need to figure out a setup where I can put the milk into a tank automatically, and that took quite a bit of work. It took me a while to get a working design, but here it is. It automatically collects milk from the cow extremely fast, throws that into a fluid transponder to take the liquid out of the bucket, puts that into a tank, and sends the bucket back to the auto clicker. It's a pretty awesome loop. I changed it up a little bit more so the buckets don't spill out everywhere, but yeah, that's automatic milk, and it is pretty crazy. Oddly enough, all of the cocoa beans and pork chops to make gelatin were extremely easy to get. All I'm missing now is wheat. I made way more garden cloches so I could automate a ton of wheat production. They later came in handy for growing carrots instead to help with the poop production. While working on a bunch of other side products, I finally have enough graham crackers to start making some s'mores. So we first make basic s'mores, pretty easy. Then we take those and use them in place of the graham crackers, all the way up to 4 s'more quad smingots. But we don't have nearly enough just yet. So to help out with that, I also automated graham crackers. Cause, why not? It skips a few steps and saves some manual labor. And with that, I have a stack of these quad s'mores in total. However, we need 100 to complete the challenge, so it's just a matter of time now. And it appeared to me only now that this production was overkill, because I have way too many graham crackers now. As you'll see here, I was able to make plenty of the quad s'mores. In the end, I got 1 stack and 48, so 1 stack and 3/4, of these quad s'mores, which is 112, so 12 more than my goal. Still, that's pretty awesome, and now I can start growing carrots. Now that the easiest challenges are out of the way, I might as well start facing the more difficult ones. So that means I'm gonna have to start diamond production back up, which means I also have to start the fusion reactor back up, which I repaired a while ago. But anyways, it's gonna take a while because I need to mine all the diamond nuggets and tiny coal first. And every so often, I actually have a decent idea. So I still need tons of bone meal to make the binder, to make refined storage parts, because I want to expand my refined storage network. And my grand idea is hammering white wool. Why do this, you ask? Well, I still have tons of hemp, so I can make tons of string, which means free wool. More importantly though, hammering white wool has a chance to give us bone meal. This is like the easiest way to get bone meal out of all of the other methods. I should have checked the pulverizer because I think that can give you bone meal as well, and it probably has a way better chance with the secondary output thing, where you have a higher chance to get the secondary outputs. Yeah, that's probably a better idea now that I think about it. But oh well, I did this, and I did tons of this. This is how I get all of my bone meal from now on. No more having to sieve dust. This is so much better. Besides the fact I'm going to build a ton of importers and exporters later on, I made this insane 16,384K fluid drive. This will allow me to store way more fluid so I can start the fusion reactor back up, and not have the outputs back up and explode. I'm going to automate all of this a bit later, but for now, this is my first major batch of diamonds. 8 blocks out of 500. Still though, that's better than nothing, and I'm going to reinvest these diamonds to make even more diamond pickaxes. Since I knew making 500 diamond blocks is gonna take an insane amount of time, I decided to start working on some automation, so I have to do less parts manually. And that's gonna start with figuring out how to automate this crusher. The hopper wasn't working because it wouldn't directly insert items into it, yet these item ducts do work. But because the refined storage system doesn't like exporting to these item ducts, I have to have an inventory, which I'll use the hopper for. So yeah, it took me a little bit to figure out this entire process, but in the end, I managed to make it work. And now we have the crushing automated. It both exports the coke coal, or coal blocks, into the crusher, has it crushed, and then imports it back into the system. Cool. The next step is I move the industrial squeezer into this room with the arc furnace, because it also has a better source of power, which is pretty important, and I set up some automation, both the importer and the exporter. So now the coke dust can get squeezed into hop graphite dust. And it's all automatic, which is pretty awesome. It is extremely satisfying seeing things being automated and just being able to sit back and watch all the items get changed. It's so cool. Believe it or not, the fusion reactor has actually been running this entire time, and the craziest part, I haven't had any issues since the last time it blew up. And I finally changed it to automatically import and export. Well, I've had all the fluid outputs being imported into the system, but now I'm finally refilling the deuterium and hydrogen I've been reacting. So that's pretty awesome. I don't have to worry about this until I run out of hydrogen and deuterium, that is. The last step to truly automate hop graphite dust is to move all of the redstone furnaces that convert the blocks of coal to coke coal and both automatically insert the blocks of coal I create there, and then export the blocks of coke coal they produce. And boom, now the entire system is automated. I just have to look in my storage system, and there is all the hop graphite dust that has been automatically produced. And since I'm going to need tons of diamonds to make 500 diamond blocks, I have to ramp up my production quite a bit. So that's going to start with more auto clickers to get more coal faster. Well, and more diamond nuggets, but those are a rare drop, and I kind of forget about that sometimes. And since I've been making way more blocks of coal than I've been consuming, I set up another row of redstone furnaces. It's starting to get really cramped in here. I am gonna have to move all of this into a new room eventually. Since I'm still crafting a bunch of unbreaking books for my best pickaxes, usually diamond ones, I decided to try and get a villager to give me an unbreaking book. And I really don't know why I didn't try this more, as it was a really good idea. My luck with villagers is just horrible. So yeah, that was one option to get more XP. There are plenty of other ways to get XP to get the books I need, and here's one example. Because I'm making tons of unbreaking books, one of my main issues right now is a lack of experience to make those books. And after some thinking, I had an amazing idea on how to get some more XP, and that is by smelting a bunch of stuff. Well, specifically gold and these beef patties. Gold dust gives 1 XP per ingot, and I can just throw these back into a manufactory or pulverizer and get dust, or grit, meaning I can infinitely repeat this process for not infinite, but relatively cheap XP. It just takes a little while to make. Alright, so here's an example of a little machine that a viewer told me about. Don't mind the nuclear setup in the background, that's a failed test. So, this uses this insightful condenser, and I'm guessing you can use other materials, but I'd have to look up what to use. Lapis gives you 100%, and we have tons of lapis, so that works out. Oh, you need the Tome of Knowledge to craft this thing. So I'd probably just make another one of these. Anyways, that puts it into this fluid transponder, which means I'd need glass. We all know my struggles with glass so far. Well, it's persistent throughout the entire run. So I might as well automate that if I had made this, which I should have automated glass either way. Anyways, that goes into a dispenser, which goes on to my favorite new timer. As you can see, boom. Alright, well it's only been like 1.5 minutes, but it works. It would actually be pretty decent long term. It's just the glass automation, which honestly, if I really think about it, it's not horrible, because all I need is sand. Sand I could, well, let's see here. And have cobblestone generators. Okay, you know what, that's not actually that bad. We can put a sequential fabricator. So honestly, yeah, this is the way to go. You can literally automate all of this easily. And I'm guessing there is a way to increase the XP you get from this. I've never used this building before, so I wouldn't know. So yeah, that's maybe what I should have done. Since I've used all of my hydrogen, deuterium, and helium that I've saved up, I've swapped over to lithium 6 and 7. It's pretty simple. I just throw lithium, which I have an insane amount of, into a melter, that into a centrifuge, back into the storage system, and it exports them back into their respective tanks, and it creates an amazing amount of power. At this point, since I was going for the challenges, I really should have made a second high-impact compactor, but because that was so expensive, I literally just didn't want to. It would have saved me a ton of time, but I didn't. So I blew up 2 double chests full of hop graphite ingots. Besides the lag, it's actually really satisfying just seeing all these diamonds instantly instead of having to wait for them. So that is one other option if I don't feel like using the high impact compactors. The only real issue is that the fusion reactor is still taking a while to get to high efficiency, so I had to add a ton of these magmatic dynamos, which are magma or lava generators, to help out at least a little bit with my power, especially considering how much cobblestone I can generate. I also spent a long time building this abomination. These are all redstone furnaces with the augment that allow you to convert blocks of coal into coke coal, and I need this because, yet again, I have way too many coal blocks and I need more hop graphite dust. In the end, this was definitely overkill, but it was amazing for the stockpile of coal blocks I have right now. I occasionally venture back to the overworld to harvest some resources, like leather for books, or just steal bookshelves from villages. Well, just mine them and then turn them back into bookshelves. But this lets me get a max enchantment table, so I have a better chance at getting Unbreaking 3. Believe it or not, I've actually been manually loading the arc furnace this entire time, but I wanted to change that because it's getting a little bit old. So to do that, I used the refined storage cable system, just like I've done for everything else, and then the left side of the arc furnace is the actual items, the Hopstitute carbon fibers, and the right is the Hop graphite dust. So I just set the exporters to export the right item, and boom, now we have complete automation. Except for the graphite rods, those have to be replaced manually. That's the only unfortunate part about the arc furnace. Still though, that will save me a ton of work and thus time. Since diamonds are going way faster now, I decided to work on the poop production a bit more, because this is going to take even longer than the diamonds, believe it or not. So I moved my setup to the 9x9 room that I was using for the water earlier, and I'm using all of the garden cloches I can fill this bottom layer with to create carrots. However, I do change them to cactus, or cacti, later on, because cactus is actually way more efficient than carrots. For carrots, it's 8 carrots for 1 pulp, but for cactus, it's 4 cactus for 1. That's literally half the amount of carrots that we need, so that'll make it way faster. But it took me a while to figure this out. Anyways, it's the exact same setup, and I eventually added another garden cloche that grows trees here, and then sawmills them, pulverizes them, just like in the old arc furnace area. While all of that is processing, I finally decided to do something different for once, and that is work on Galacticraft stuff, because I want to go do space real quick. By real quick, I mean it's going to take me a super long time to compress everything because I don't have the best compressor right now. And it costs coal, which is super annoying. I mean, obviously I had the materials to make everything, it's just I don't like that coal cost. I also had to go back to the overworld to find some oil, which thankfully there was a deposit relatively close to my base. However, it is underwater. But this is old Minecraft, 1.12.2, so I just used the classic door trick. And I just need to get the oil from inside this area now. And let's just say in the end, I might have gotten a little bit too much oil. This is way more than I actually needed. And this setup helps me make more coal. That goes back into the system to make more coke coal. But I also use some of that coal to make the compressor work. The good thing is, once I craft an advanced wafer, I can make the electric compressor, which is way better than having to burn a bunch of coal. And it's faster, which is nice. In Galacticraft, you'd normally set up an oxygen collector and then this compressor, but I had a genius idea. I have so much oxygen gas in my storage system, why don't I just export it? And would you guess what? It worked! That was pretty amazing. I'm glad that worked because, well, that's one use for all this oxygen I have. Even though I don't need this entire suit for the moon, since I have everything to make it right now, I might as well, because I'll need it, I think, for the second and third planet, Mars and Venus, I believe. So yeah, good to have. And surprisingly, it was not surprising at all, the fusion reactor blew up. Again, I guess I didn't have enough active cooling this time. So that's great. I get to rebuild it yet again, because I really need this power to make the high impact compactor work. It's just a pain. Back to making the thermal suit though, the main reason I did is because, well, first of all, I had everything to make the tier 1, and the tier 2 just costs Dash, which I have plenty of at this point. Even though you're not supposed to, this mod pack lets you. You're normally supposed to go to Mars and get Dash from there. So there we have it, the thermal suit needed for Mars and Venus, before going to space. One thing I probably should have done way earlier in the run, considering I've had to cheat this much with nuclear craft, is disabling radiation, which I actually didn't know was an option. But that's nice, because I've died way too many times to radiation poisoning at this point. It's so nice to not have to deal with it now, especially considering I'm dealing with a lot of californium right now, which, you know, is the most radioactive stuff in the entire mod. So yeah, I did that. Since that first refinery was taking so long, I decided to add 5 more, which, like I said earlier, is a bit overkill. I didn't need this much fuel, but at this point, I mean, why not? There's no kill like overkill. And since I have way more than enough materials, making the rocket itself is extremely easy. I don't know why I put the workbench out here at the beginning, I moved it back into the base, but simple tier 1 rocket. Right before I go to space, I just wanted to check how many diamond blocks I have in total, and even though I'm not extremely close, we're definitely getting there. So I may have decided before going to space, I might as well finish up the last few diamond blocks. I had tons of diamond nuggets lying around, so I wanted to finish it all up. And I wanted to turn off the high impact compactor before I went off to space because of how much power it draws. And with that, that is the last diamond block I need for all 500 blocks of diamonds. You can probably tell how long it took considering I decided to wrap my entire base in white wool. It looks a little bit better, but yeah. This quest block is definitely still glitched considering it literally won't let me submit anything, so I decided to do it from my inventory and submit all the stuff I have right now. The claim button seems to have submitted the Picky Eater, which is the 100 the s'mores, and apparently it doesn't consume those, so I get to keep them. 500 diamond blocks, gone. 100 bedrock was relatively easy. 1000 blocks of iron, that was actually one of the easier ones too. And of course the lava and water, which, like I said, were a piece of cake. With all of those challenges done, there's still the poop, which is very much still ongoing. So I can head out to space while that is still running. It's nice though, because I get to keep these 4 s'more quad smiggets because they're the best source of food I've ever seen in a Minecraft mod pack. It is like overkill. After loading the fuel and realizing I had made way too much, I'm finally ready to go to space in my rocket. I made sure that I had everything ready to go, and all that's left is to blast off in the rocket. I've always loved doing this, it's just so cool. This perspective is awesome, and it's neat watching how far you go into the sky before you reach space. I believe it's like 1,000 blocks or 750, something like that. Still, it's so neat. Naturally, what goes up must come back down, and apparently each planet has a different entry method, which is super neat. But the moon is one I know well. But it's very important you know your coordinates because you have to slow down right before you hit the surface or your lander will explode. So I waited as long as possible before I slowed my entry, and it was a nice and soft landing. Perfect. But now I'm on the moon. Normally you'd set up like a base here and everything and build a moon rover, but thankfully with the coin of flight I can just fly around the moon super easily. I forgot how old this mod is. I should have looked it up by now, but it's gotta be 9, maybe even 10 years old. This is one of the oldest mods in Minecraft for sure. But I'm looking for a very specific type of hole on the moon, and it's gonna take me a while, because they are extremely rare. A little while later, I finally found this hole, and these holes lead to dungeons. Yep, there are dungeons on the moon, and Mars, and Venus, apparently. There's also cheese. I've collected some of that already. But yeah, since this mod is so old, the dungeons are pretty simple. It's basically just hallways with rooms, either chests or mob spawners. And I'm sorry it's pretty dark, but I could see really well. I forgot the recording can't. Also, the Endermen do not attack normally. I kind of looked at him wrong. The neat thing about these chests is you can get some crazy enchanted books, like this one. If you didn't catch it, that was Multi-Shot 4. I'm going to enchant this bow a bit later on, and you'll see just the pure insanity that this thing can cause. And finally, I've reached the boss arena. I remember this and the boss, but not how to beat him, or how terrifying his sound effects were. His death one is definitely the most creepy though. I kind of forgot about that. I mean, I don't really know how. But still, relatively easy boss, especially considering I have dash armor, which I'm not supposed to at this point. But yeah, not much too else to say. This is a very old mod, after all. I also find it funny how you can see his hearts when he's grabbing you, just like a horse. Once you beat him, you get a little bit of XP, I was actually hoping for more, and a dungeon key, which is required to open the chest over there. As you can see, I forgot about that, so yeah, I was just focused on the glowstone. This chest gives you some more meteoric iron, which I'm going to need an insane amount of for my next rockets, and more importantly, the tier 2 rocket blueprint, which is, well, obviously for the next rocket I need to make. So I'm gonna go explore the moon a bit more, and there's literally nothing else besides villages and dungeons, so I'll cut back to Earth. When I was done, I decided to use the Team Island command to teleport back to my home. I should have launched a rocket back home, but you guys will see later why I didn't do that, and it's probably just a good idea, and, well, better to do this instead. With all of the meteoric iron I collected, I was able to make a bunch of tier 2 platings, as well as the advanced compressor, which is just like a better electric compressor, but it costs a meteoric iron plate. Expensive, but definitely worth it. I also decided to move the NASA workbench back into my compact machine because it's way better here. The recipe is a bit similar, it just also costs fuel tanks, flint and steel, yellow wool, nothing I don't have. And yeah, it's back to the overworld to set it up and launch again. And it is Mars time, which I don't think I've actually been here before. I've only ever been to the moon and built space stations. Oh, wait, no, I have. I just don't remember it very well. I remember this landing thing because it makes you bounce around. Yeah, that's actually pretty awesome. Well, it's just time to find the dungeon because I don't believe there's anything else of worth here. And spoilers, all the holes and dungeons are the exact same. The dungeons, I believe, have a slight bit of randomness to them, but yeah, the holes are all generated the exact same. I decided to bring some glowstone torches with me this time to light up the viewer experience. Besides that though, it's all the exact same. Except, of course, for the bosses. And I forgot how to fight this creeper boss, but you just have to hit its TNT back at it, like a ghast. Still, I think it's an insanely cool boss fight and concept for other bosses, because this is something that would be neat to see in other video games instead. You might also be able to see that little slug I got. That's one of the other things that spawns here, but it died pretty quickly. Not really worth it. I'm not a huge fan of pets in Minecraft. Besides maybe cats, because they can scare away creepers, so that's decent for survival mode. The only thing I care about from the chest is the tier 3 rocket blueprint. The only reason I didn't take the dash stick is because I already have the 500 blocks of diamonds. I don't need dash anymore. That's the only thing you would need from Mars, besides this. And here's the reason it's just better to teleport back to my island, because you spawn randomly in the overworld, so I teleported back anyways. But good to know. Just like with tier 2, I'll need dash, well, compressed dash specifically, to make the tier 3 plates. But you need an insane amount of these because the tier 3 rocket has a ton of parts. And I've been using the rocket recycler to get some of the parts back from my old rockets, but unfortunately I'm going to need more compressed meteoric iron, which means I had to make a quick trip back to the moon. And yeah, the recipe is pretty similar, but you just have to make heavy parts, which cost the tier 3 plates, which are very expensive. So I made just enough to be able to get the rocket, mostly because I didn't have the meteoric iron to afford anymore. Okay, I actually haven't seen Venus yet, and this entry pod is insanely cool looking. I love this entry for sure, but it's taking a while. I'm guessing you spawn it at 1,000 or 1,200, whatever it is, but it feels like it's taking forever to hit the surface. And yeah, Venus is the closest thing you'll find to hell. It's full of lava, there's lightning everywhere, and I couldn't tell at the beginning, but the place actually slowly erodes your armor, so it's best you take that off. And that's the main reason you need the protection suit underneath your armor. But yeah, just take your armor off. Anyways, I'm gonna be looking for a dungeon. I also forgot to mention that I've been collecting the rocks because that's what you need to get the quest for this. That's just proof that I have been to all these planets, but obviously you guys see the footage. The other cool thing is these crashed probes, which give you a bunch of rare materials. I mean, titanium and tier 3 rocket plates? Yeah, those are insanely hard to get otherwise. And here's the footage of me finally realizing that my armor is being eroded. Don't know why I didn't take it off right then. It took me a while later to take it off, but oh well. I also found this cool sulfuric acid pool. I don't know what it's used for. I'm guessing it's something to do with Galacticraft, but it definitely hurts to swim in, so that is sulfuric acid. And obviously, dungeon and hole are the exact same as before. I kind of forgot to mention this bow though. It literally works like a shotgun. I guess you guys have probably seen that by now, but yeah, bow shotgun with multi-shot 4. I'm curious like what you could do with multi-shot 5 and up. Like that would just be insane. I really wish they let you do this in vanilla Minecraft, but there are obvious reasons why they don't. This first dungeon was extremely short, and it's a giant spider, which I basically two-shot. I just had to wait for this queen to web up and spawn all her minions. It was pretty simple. As you can see, I adapt to bosses extremely fast, and considering how many games I play, yeah, I kinda have to. But that was it. And nothing I really needed from the treasure chest. There wasn't even the automatic cargo rocket, which, actually no, I think that's tier 2. I was supposed to get the shield core from this place, which protects you from the atmospheric conditions, I believe. So yeah, I didn't get that, which was truly saddening. Since the poop production is still taking forever, I added another sawmill, changed all the item ducts to impulse ones, which as you can see transfer items extremely fast, and it's still just time to wait. I should have maybe added another fluid transponder, but I don't know how the barrel sewage production would work with that. Anyways, we're pretty close to finishing, so I just have to wait a little bit longer. And it's almost done. We get to see the sweet countdown, or count up in this case, to 100,000 poop. That's insanity. And that truly completes this challenge and this entire mod pack. Sure, I didn't do like every single challenge slash mission, but I did the challenges at the end, and that's what mattered most to me. So I decided to go back to where it all began. Machine number 0, our original compact machine. And I decided this is where I'm going to turn everything in. The major issue is getting all of the poop out of that storage box. To do that, I just used some servos to extract it and put it into an actual chest, or the strong box. And from there, I transfer it all into my inventory and then manually submit it every single time. So this is gonna take a little bit. I'll just cut to when I'm finished. Finally, here's the last inventory full. What I've been working this entire run and all 80 hours to do. That's it. I beat all the challenges. That's awesome. This is the first time I've truly completed this mod pack, and I was extremely happy. I love this mod pack. It is my new favorite. I was gonna say might be, but no, it is definitely my new favorite. It has an amazing selection of mods and a perfect amount of challenge. But I feel like something's missing still. Something I usually forget about is the end cake. Now, I don't know how it works if you go to an actual stronghold, but I didn't try that. Breaking it is also a bad idea because I forgot you actually have to be hungry to eat the end cake. So I kind of cheated one more in. And that's going to be helpful because I don't know what happened to this coin of flight. I somehow accidentally deleted it, I guess? Like, look at this. It just disappears. My coin of flight. I don't know if they don't want you to use it in the end or what, but that was just odd. So I just gave myself a new one and flew around, destroying the end crystals as you usually do. Before destroying them all though, I wanted to see if I could actually kill the Ender Dragon with this multi-shot core. And it appears, yes you can. This is definitely not balanced, and this is something I'd love to see in vanilla Minecraft. Like I said earlier, I almost need to try to add this now. But with that, I am truly and finally done with the entire mod pack. Both bosses have been beat, and here are the final stats for the run. 80 hours. That's quite a bit. I mean, I'm used to it, but yeah, that's still a lot for most people. I was trying to look at all the other stats too, but they were glitched, I think. Because, like, I never had 900 diamond dust. So, yeah, that was weird. Anyways, though, thank you guys for watching. I really appreciate it, and it was super fun to play this mod and make this entire run. If you guys want to see more mod packs like this, just leave a like, maybe even tell me in the comments, because I have some other ideas and one super old mod pack that I wanted to do a run on and beat forever. Again, thank you all for watching, and especially thank you to my members for supporting me. This is going to be Enzo from LookIntoGaming, signing out.